Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us on episode 20 of Health Talk with Dr. Kell. We are at the end of a 4-part series called Inflammation and the Autoimmune Response. In week 1, we talked about nutritional triggers for inflammation with Dr. Kell and Ted Hahn, clinical nutritionist. Ted's favorite quote is, "If it doesn't have fins, feathers, fur, or grow out of the earth, don't eat it." In part 2, we discussed the physical triggers for inflammation in the body, which are injury and infection. With injury and infection, the body's B cells and T cells jump into action, helping the body to heal. It's best to let the body move through this process naturally. When not injured, mild to moderate exercise can be good for the immune system. It gets the heart pumping and blood flowing throughout the body. Last week, in part 3, we discussed the emotional triggers for inflammation. Happiness, relaxation, and calmness help to boost the immune system. Fear, hurt, sadness, anxiety, anger, and hatred can suppress the immune system because these emotions kick in the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, and our bodies release excess cortisol due to the stress. Solutions and suggestions include recognize your feelings and acknowledge them, develop trusting relationships, try meditation and yoga, and stay engaged and involved in life. Finally, we're wrapping up with part 4, discussing environmental triggers for inflammation, which include nano and microplastics, heavy metals, processed foods and their packaging, and cosmetics. What are micro and nanoplastics? They are small pieces of plastic that occur in the environment as a result of plastic pollution and the breakdown of larger forms of plastics that are present in the environment. At this point, environmental exposure to microplastics and heavy metals is inevitable for humans, animals, and sea creatures. When plastic pieces undergo leaching, they release chemicals that are carcinogenic in nature. There are things you can do to reduce the micro and nanoplastics in the environment. Choose stainless steel water bottles, lunch containers, and straws. Use reusable bags at the grocery store. Eat a healthy diet with less processed foods packaged in plastic bags. Choose cosmetics that are free of nanoplastics such as acrylates, styrene, copolymer, polyethylene, nylon, and PMMA. Instead, look for products made from natural materials with as few of ingredients as possible. Each of us can make a difference by choosing to help the environment and, in turn, help decrease our toxic exposures and support a healthier immune system. Welcome, everyone, to Health Talk with Dr. Kell. I'm Nikki Sterner, and today we're doing episode number 20, which is Environmental Triggers for Inflammation and Immunity. Please welcome to the show Dr. Kell.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi, and Eric, our producer.
Guys. Thanks.
All right, but before we get into that, I wanted to read a quote that I found. "Do what you can with all you have, wherever you are," by Theodore Roosevelt. And I like that because I feel like changing to a healthy lifestyle, sometimes you can't do everything all at once. And so for me, it just says, do a little bit at a time wherever you are. Just continue to try to improve. How do you see this quote?
I think
Dr.
it goes
Kell?
kind of along with what we talked about last week of emotional care and how it can affect your inflammation and immunity in your body. And reacting to current situations, whether you stay calm, the most healthy thing to do is to stay calm. But if you get angry or upset or irritated, then it actually lowers your immunity, causes inflammation in the body, and causes dysfunction of things in your system. So that quote goes along well with that, as well as I have another one. Can I read another one?
Yeah,
Nikki?
go ahead. Yeah.
Something I found in neuroscience I thought was kind of neat. It says the idea that we must suffer to grow is questionable. Positive life events, such as falling in love, having children, and achieving cherished goals can lead to growth. Teaching through cruelty invites abuse of power and selfish sadism. Buddhism offers an alternative to what they call wrathful compassion. Here we act from love to confront others to protect them from their greed, hatred, and fear. Life can be cruel. Truth can be cruel. But we can choose not to be.
It's hard not to react to people when they're being cruel. But yeah, sometimes it's easier to come from a place of love.
Yeah, and basically that's saying to me that in the instance where you're dealing with someone who's really angry, what's the best medicine for that? To be the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Show compassion, to show love, to show understanding. And that in itself can calm them down and help their health.
Yeah, because a lot of times people who are hurt are hurting other people, right?
Right.
So
yeah, usually they lash out for a multitude of reasons. But Usually it just starts with frustration or fear, right? That you aren't accomplishing what you want to, or circumstances aren't working quite the way you want, like driving a car down the road and getting stuck in traffic. Good one.
Yeah.
Personal experience you want to share here?
Anything happened today?
We all have them, right? Anybody listening who has a driver's license has had those.
Oh my gosh, today when I was driving home from dropping off Jake, there's a lot of the electric bikes around.
They're crazy.
Oh my gosh, somebody, I assume he was riding to the high school, must have gotten hit. Yeah, because there was a truck that was pulled over there, and then there was like an emergency medical team there, trying to put the boy on something. It just took the wind out of me, because that's somebody's kid and they got hit on their bike, and it's so hard to see a lot of times and to navigate. They come up, even motorcycles come up in between cars, and it's really scary sometimes.
I don't know if you guys know, I heard the statistic a while back that San Diego is the #1 city in America with the most deaths from bicycle accidents.
Oh, yeah. I believe that too.
Yeah, because we have bicycle lanes everywhere. Bicyclists don't pay any attention. Well, I shouldn't say all of them. Obviously, some of them do. But in the moment, they're not paying attention. Drivers can't see them, but they assume they can, and
boom. It is hard to see sometimes. Sometimes they come up fast, and you just, And
those bicycle lanes.
So motorcycles have to have a license. You have to get a license and pass the driving test to get a motorcycle license. But bikers don't, right? They could be 12, 10, 15, whatever, and they just think they're a motorcycle. They treat their bikes like a motorcycle, and they're weaving in and out of traffic, and they don't see how people respond and get run over.
It's so scary.
Yeah.
Scary stuff.
It took my breath away. I couldn't. Yeah. It's somebody's kid.
Yep. Sad thing.
Yeah.
You're out having fun. The worst thing is going out to have fun and getting injured or dying.
Yeah. We don't want that.
and it happens a lot. It's kind of.
I thought about what you were saying about the people who don't have the pain receptors and they're the risk takers, because I feel like in our area in San Diego, there's a lot more of that for some reason. I don't know if it's just me seeing that. There's skateboarding, there's all these bicycling, and it's great outdoor stuff, but there's a level of risk involved to it, because you're not, in a car, you're out with the cars. And I always think to myself, oh my gosh, that's scary. What if he fell right in front of me as I'm driving,
Well, the bike lanes give a false sense of security to bicyclists.
Yeah.
They really do. Anyway, what's next, Nikki?
Anyway, that was my morning. Did you have any news that you wanted to discuss? Oh, okay, you know what? I wanted to go back to the inflammation definition.
Yeah, just throw that out there. Since we continue this will be the 4th episode on inflammation and immunity, covering the different causes of that or effects of that on our body. And now we're covering the environmental stuff. So just reading that definition again to people, I think is good.
Okay, so inflammation is the body's normal response to injuries or infections. You may often hear the words infection and inflammation together, but they mean very different things. Infection refers to the invasion and multiplication of a pathogen within the body, while inflammation is the body's protective response against infection. Inflammation is a complex process involving various types of immune cells, clotting proteins, and signaling molecules, all of which change over time. Do you want to go into more detail about that?
One thing that's missing there that we're going to talk about today is toxins that enter your body that cause an immune response and inflammation as well.
Yes.
That refers to injuries and what was the other one? Injuries and infections. So basically, you've got it's treated like an infection. The body sees it as a foreign object and then reacts to it. Gonna have a few things I found in different articles today that as we cover different topics related to the environment and immunity and inflammation. This one found very interesting because I don't drink alcohol, and I don't know that either of you do too.
I do on occasion.
You do on occasion.
It's rare,
well, maybe these comments will get you to stop, and hopefully everybody out there, because the thing about alcohol is such a big social connection to people, and so that's where we go.
It's interesting that you bring this up, because not just 5 days ago, the government actually has come out and said alcohol can cause damage to the brain.
Goes right with this.
Wow, really?
Goes right with these words right here. Thanks, Eric. Yeah. It says, there is no such thing as a safe level of drinking.
Oh.
With increased consumption of alcohol associated with poor brain health, according to a new study. In an observational study, which has not yet been peer-reviewed, so for those of you that have to have a peer-reviewed article, stop listening.
Just wait.
Researchers from the University of Oxford, that's a credible place, study the relationship between the self-reported alcohol intake of some 25,000 people in the UK and their brain scans. The researchers noted that drinking had an effect on the brain's gray matter, regions in the brain that make up important bits where information is processed, according to a lead author. So, alcohol in any form, and I won't read more of that article, but basically it talked about how it causes, increases the speed of shrinking of the gray matter of the brain, and more is being tied to Alzheimer's and dementia and of course old-timers diseases of all kinds. And alcohol can contribute to that in any amount. It even said it doesn't matter whether you're drinking hard alcohol, beer, or wine.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Really?
Any amount of alcohol in your body will kill brain cells, and specifically cells in the gray matter. Now, we must have a whole lot of them because people still continue to function after that hangover. But I think the big concern there, and they're trying to figure out more and more the reasons for things like Alzheimer's and dementia and other age-related diseases, that alcohol is contributing to those things.
I think about like when I'm trying to memorize lines and stuff, and if I have like a few days to memorize a scene, I don't drink for that purpose, because I know like it'll take me a whole half a day or a day to get back on track with where I was before. So I don't do it very often, but every now and then I just feel like I just want to like release and just not care for,
Well, alcohol is a depressant. It's relaxing.
Yeah.
And in small amounts, it does relax the body's tension, kind of kicks in the parasympathetic nervous system, but the long-term effects are very detrimental. It's appearing as more and more research goes along.
I'll order a margarita and I'll have like an inch of it, and it'll like affect me.
Well, yeah,
so
if you
funny.
don't drink, it doesn't take much to feel something from it.
Yeah.
So and maybe like anything else, and I guess I would say that we always go by moderation in all things. The reality of it is maybe a little bit of alcohol isn't any worse than the medications that are prescribed to you for the same kinds of emotional issues.
Yeah. What about wine? Because they say like wine has, what is it, resveratrol or whatever that word is, that is supposed to be good for you from the grapes.
Well,
I don't know. Is that
truth?
Or?
You know what? Anybody that's trying to sell something is going to tell you. As soon as somebody starts talking bad about it, they're going to start creating research articles and spending money that will tell you that it's actually good and safe and healthy.
Yeah.
So you really got to be careful about what people say about their products. And do some investigation. I mean, that's what our program is about, is really looking at things from all angles and discovering that what's the truth. And the truth can vary in different circumstances and situations, right?
Didn't doctors used to like promote smoking?
Oh,
for,
yeah.
like weight loss?
Absolutely, yeah. Cocaine, it was in Coca-Cola at one time. Okay, so the next thing on there, let's move on to one of my favorite topics in this podcast, and that's nanoplastics. A lot of people, it's more in the news now, becoming more and more news. The oceans are filled with plastic and doing damage to the oceans. There's plastic everywhere. There's plastic in the air. There's plastic in the water. Here's a couple of things.
Drinking water?
Yep. It's in our drinking water. In fact, they say that on average, us as individuals take in on a weekly basis the size of the amount of plastic that would equal the size of a credit card.
Wow.
And
wait, how often?
Every day?
Weekly.
Oh, weekly.
Every week?
Every week. And 90% of it, they say research shows that about 90% of it is expelled, but about 10% stays in our body. So add that up over a year's time. That's a lot of plastic.
About 52 credit cards a year. Is that what you're saying? Wow.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, body filters, but what does the body do with the rest of it? That's the real question.
Oh, it gets stuck somewhere.
Here's something from lifestraw.com that I found on nanoplastics and water bottles. So you're thinking there's two things here, two issues. The water's sitting in a plastic bottle.
Oh, yeah.
That plastic bottle in and of itself is typically polyethylene. You hear, it's a PET plastic or it's a... what's the other one? PBA-free plastic, and they say that about water bottles, PBA-free. So not only does the bottle itself potentially leach plastic into the bottle, in fact, if you buy a lot of water bottles in plastic, make sure you keep them in a cool area. Do not expose them to the direct sun, because when they heat up, that's when plastic is leached out of the bottle into the liquids. But microplastics, because they're microscopic, you'll hear the term microplastics and nanoplastics. Depending on where you read, nanoplastics are smaller than microplastics, but it's kind of used interchangeably.
Okay.
But not only does the bottle possibly leach some substances into the water. But there's also already microplastics in the water. It says microplastics have also found their way into bottled water. Further research discovered that microplastics were found in 93% of 11 popular bottle brands around the world.
Yikes.
It's all over. And I'm sure there's companies out there and they're working on filters that will filter out the plastic. Right now, our water filters will not filter out the plastic.
That's what I was going to ask you.
So, that's where we need to go with this. And companies out there that are doing the water filtration systems need to also create a filter that'll filter out those nanoplastics.
How would you get them out?
Are
they positively charged or something like that?
That's the thing is they're not.
They're not.
Their nanoplastics are pretty much neutral from my understanding. And so that makes it more difficult. The question here, that since we're talking about inflammation and immunity, is those plastics are finding through research now, and they're doing more and more research on it, that it does affect the gut flora and does affect your immunity. And when it actually enters the body treats it as a foreign substance, and therefore creates starts up the inflammatory process. And I think personally, though I'm just making conjecture, that the day will come that they'll find these plastics are adding to the whole cause of disease.
Yeah.
They're a contributing factor. Yes, Eric, do you want to say something?
It's interesting. So where I live right now, we recently built a house, and they're tearing up all the streets around us, replacing a lot of the water lines, which are PVC big pipes, and then when they come to your house, it's PVC, and now it's PEX and stuff like that. So I don't know what's in those.
Well, research is showing that the thicker the plastic, the less likely it will leach anything into the water. So like large water pails, things like that are much safer than thin plastic. I mean, look at how thin a water bottle is.
Yeah, that's true.
So not...
So all the piping on your house is safe.
So piping on yourself is safer than the other. Whether you're getting some things through it or not, time will tell, I suppose. They always do these things and say, oh, they're safe. The FDA comes in and says, oh, they're good. We've done the testing on it. And the reality of it is that oftentimes, how many times have you heard later on, and we've talked about it here on the show, that FDA approved it, but later had a problem. And then there's other things that the FDA refuses to approve that are actually good for you, like nanosilver.
So what are they replacing? Like copper pipes or something?
I don't think they had copper in the ground. It's just, old stuff from when they started building our city, because it's...
what were those materials?
Even copper pipes.
Cast iron pipes?
Even copper pipes, the cast iron. Some of the articles I read said that asbestos was intermixed sometimes with those things. And pipes in old houses, if you got old pipes, you should replace those, because there's asbestos even found in some water in old houses.
Even the glue to make the joint too, what's in the glue? There's little, every 10 feet there's a glue joint.
Gosh, that's gross.
So there needs to be more work and improvement on the filtering systems. They're good at pulling out all the metals, but we've talked about that in the past too, about how it's taking out all those metals. Well, it's taking out a lot of the good metals too. And zinc and copper can be considered at high levels a problem for us, but zinc and copper are essential metals in our body. So small amounts of it are good for us.
So if we do a household filter on your house, a lot of people do that to drink the water. What type of a filter would you recommend?
Well, the reverse osmosis ones, from what I've read, are the best as far as removing everything. But it doesn't appear that they remove the plastics.
Are those the kind that you can just buy off the shelf at Home Depot, and they have 3 canisters? Is that reverse osmosis?
You've got to read the label.
Oh, okay.
There's so many different kinds. Some work just straight through filters, and others do reverse osmosis.
But that's not the kind that you put in your fridge that filters out that water.
No,
right?
I don't think that. I don't think those quite work that way.
Yeah.
The whole house ones, I think, tend to be more that design. The more higher end, more expensive ones, and the whole house ones are obviously the best ones.
Yeah.
More expensive, and not everyone can afford them, but they are the ones
have
that
one of
help
those?
We have
you
the
the
fridge
most.
filters. We're looking at putting
A whole house
multi filter in our
Yeah,
house.
I recommend everybody get a whole house filter if
Do
they
you
can
have one
afford
on
it.
yours?
We don't have one on our house, but
we don't
it's
either.
something I've been looking at and considering.
Yeah.
So again, we discussed before the issues though that it sucks out all the minerals, and so you need to add them back. So we're drinking lots of water now with no minerals. Our body needs those minerals to function, so you need to add back a supplement. And there's several of them that we've talked about, from potassium, sodium, even though we always say we get way too much sodium, copper, zinc, magnesium. There's a list of many, but those are the basics.
So if you drink filtered water, you can eat more French fries, is what you're saying? Just kidding.
Well, we're going to talk about that, Eric, later in the show.
I wanted to mention a couple things before we move on. So the plastic water bottles, I know, like, I can tell when they've been sitting in someplace hot, even if it was in like the warehouse before we bought them. I can
you know
taste
what's
the
happened to it
plastic.
before you buy it, right?
Yeah.
Could have been sitting in the heat.
But you can't taste it as much if it's cold from the fridge. But room temperature water, you can definitely taste the plastic
sometimes
in it.
You can, right?
Yeah.
Even in your water bottles, like some of the cheap water bottles that you get, you can taste the plastic in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. We use all the stainless steel ones now. And then we do Berkey water filters. I don't know if you've heard of those before, but they have like the black filters, and they also have a fluoride filter, so they filter out.
Yeah, you should always look at your bottles, your water bottles especially, whether it's the ones that you're buying with water in them or buying to hold water. Stainless steel really is much better than any of the rest. But the plastic ones, make sure it's thick plastic. Make sure it says on there that it's either PET plastic or PBA free. HD. I'm probably getting the initials wrong. I've got it here. Let's see. Anyway.
High density polyurethane.
Yep, there you go. Thanks, Eric.
So I'm holding my stainless steel water bottle, but I drink out of a straw because I don't like drinking like a can as my straw.
That's a nice thick. Thick
it's
plastic
as a water
straw.
Bottle, though. I should probably see what my straw is made out of, because maybe I'm sucking all the plastic out of this thing, right?
They have the stainless steel
Well, the
straws.
one
Have
thing
you seen
about
those?
that
But then
straw,
you
I
gotta-
would say, the thin plastic straws. I mean, I hate sucking out of paper straws.
Yeah.
And I do
gross.
prefer a plastic
They
straw
disintegrate.
just for feel and function.
Yeah.
But that thin plastic straw leaches off more plastic.
Like McDonald's
that one you have on that water bottle is fairly thick,
Yeah, it looks
so
more
it
sturdy.
probably is better. But yeah, you don't know. Lots of stores out there sell really cheap
Yeah, all the
bottles
fast food ones,
for
yeah.
drinking water in.
Yeah.
But I suggest to everybody read your label. Make sure that it's PET plastic, polyethylene, or the
PBA.
what are the initials again, Eric?
HDPE.
HDPE,
Yeah.
which stands for what?
High density polyurethane.
Yes.
Polyethylene.
Okay. So those are considered the best, but they're
Polyethylene.
not perfect either. They found issues even with those. So we're being plastic and inundated. Here's another thing I found here regarding to plastic for those who are pregnant or who have babies they're breastfeeding. Let's see. PFAS in breast milk from others in the United States found that 50 out of 50 women tested positive for PFAS, which is type of plastic, and other chemicals, with levels ranging from 52 parts per million to 50 parts per million, or 500 parts per million. Breast milk samples were tested for 39 different PFAS, including 9 current use compounds. Results found that both current use and phased out PFAS contaminated breast milk, exposing nursing infants to the effects of toxic chemicals. A total of 16 PFAS were detected, with 12 found in more than 50% of the samples. The levels of PFAS that are currently in use in a wide range of products are raising the breast milk levels. So
Did you say what PFAS were?
PFAS are a variety of chemicals, but the plastics fall into that category.
Okay.
So now imagine a woman who has breast implants nursing her child, which is very common. A lot of women do.
Yeah, you used to not be able to. Originally they
really?
said, if you get a breast implant, you can't breastfeed
They
after
should
that.
do
But
that,
now when they do the ones that go up underneath, they can still breastfeed. But if you're leaching stuff out of that,
Imagine there's a lot of women that do. Yeah, like I had breast implants, and I wasn't able to nurse very well, but I nursed for about 7 to 8 weeks with each child. Luckily, it didn't work out because I think I would have harmed
your
them
child.
more than
well, I've met your
than helped
children,
them.
and they're very intelligent. So they survived.
Yeah,
they survived the
intelligence-wise,
feeding.
they're good, but I mean,
Yeah.
health-wise, we definitely have our issues from.
There could be some relationship back to that. They don't know. More research needs to be done. Could it affect allergies? I tell you right now, if it's affecting your gut flora, it's tied to immunity, it's tied to inflammation, it's tied to allergies, and all those things. There's so many things. Then that's what we're talking about today. All the different things, and we don't want to get people depressed here. We want to give you hope. And what can you guard yourself, and what you can't. Right now, the plastics through your water, pretty tough to do. Through the air, maybe a different story. The HEPA filters can filter out apparently plastics down to 3 microns. If you're
Wait.
gonna,
So you're saying there's plastics in the air?
oh, the air is full of plastic. Nanoplastics are in all the air we breathe. You ever look at the sun glistening and you see all the little particles floating in the air that you're breathing in?
Yeah.
Part of those are nanoplastics.
I thought that was dust.
and dust and pollen and all the many
feces.
things that are yeah probably but it's full of stuff, and so I recommend that you
Just
have
wearing
an
a
air
mask all
filter
the time, right?
air filter in your
Just
home.
continue the mask forever.
I hate the masks, but that might be one
Might be.
one side benefit to wearing a mask.
Inhaling less
The day
plastic.
may come where we just wear masks not because of a virus, but because of air pollution.
Oh, yeah. You know what? This drives me crazy. I don't know who it is. Someone in my neighborhood.
If you're listening.
Yeah. Hopefully you're not. But they burn like a wood stove or something, a fireplace, every night at like 6 or 6:30 or something like that. So it's like I open my windows to let in all this fresh air, and it's like smoke coming into my house. It drives me crazy. It's every night. I don't know how to overcome it. We don't have air conditioning because it's San Diego, so because you open your windows and have the breeze.
Well,
but it's
I would recommend that
smoke.
you get you put a good filter on your furnace. So when you're heating your house, it filters out as much as it can.
Yeah, a lot of the filters that they stock are like 1/2 inch, but you should be more like a 4-inch thick filter. It filters out so much more stuff.
Yep. You want to get, if you're really concerned, and research is showing more than you should be, you should get the good filters on your furnace and buy an in-house filter system. And if you can get one that you can hook into your airflow system to where when you turn on a fan, you can use your furnace system where you just turn the fan on. So you could, if you've got a good filter on the furnace, you can just turn the fan on and it will help filter out the air throughout the house. The other units that you can buy and set in your living room or whatever, those are probably the best. But it's difficult to do a whole house in that, put it where you sleep, use it downstairs when you're just there in the house. Because all that stuff's in the house. I remember living near a freeway a few years back, and we couldn't have our windows open. Yeah. Not just partially because of the noise, but because if we left the windows open, there would be a thick layer of dust all throughout the house in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Pollution from the cars, but also the cars going by kick everything up off the ground and into the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So, anything else regarding plastics you guys would like to talk about? Any questions there?
So we went to Seattle this weekend, and I love REI, the outdoor recreation place, and we were checking out all their stuff, and while I was in line, they actually have they call it like a forever straw, but it's a straw about this big that's stainless steel in it, so it's about 3 inches, and it unfolds, so when you're out, you can use this stainless steel straw. So if you don't want to use the plastic straw at McDonald's or wherever you are, you can fold out and use your stainless steel straw. So
nice.
Very
keep
cool.
it forever and keep less straw.
So,
I know in certain cities they're actually banning straws.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They don't want to pollute.
Is it against the law in California for them to bring you a straw if you don't ask for one?
You
or
have
something
to
like
ask,
that. You have to ask, right?
In certain cities. Yeah, I don't know if it's the whole state, but certain cities. you
certain
do.
cities? Yeah.
Like they'll have them on their belt or whatever while they're walking around and serving you, but you have to ask for it.
Yeah, they don't just give you one anymore.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're trying to save a penny or...
I mean, I think it's, for the environment, isn't it for the environment? Yeah.
Same with the plastic bags.
Oh, yeah, we have to pay 10 cents if you're not from California. We have to pay 10 cents for plastic bags. So it's good, though, because I keep my bags in the back of the car and I load my groceries in at the back of my car.
Interesting you say that about the straws, though. A lot of people don't like to drink off the glass because, even though it went through
they're
the
touching
washing
it,
machine, that the person picking it up touches it. I've even had people, freaks me out, I hardly ever eat any fast food anymore, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in this podcast and why. But I remember one time I go in there and ask for a soda, and you go do your own refills. And wait, I admitted to drinking soda. Actually, I've been on the wagon. Haven't had a soda in over a month now. Health Talk with Dr. Kell, right? I drink soda.
Working.
But
I've admitted my sugar addiction.
I gotta say, doing these podcasts have improved my overall way of eating.
They do,
as well.
right?
You don't want to be a hypocrite, is that why?
Yeah, I
They
don't want to be a
remind
hypocrite.
you.
So we know all these things are bad for us. There's not a lack of information out there. It's the drive within us that gets us to change.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's information. Information and knowledge is typically what motivates someone to change. Or an event in their life, a scary event, like, hey, you're going to die if you don't do this. That usually is a game changer.
You know what's funny, though? Because you said when you were younger, when you went through whatever in middle school, you drank soda and ate potato chips. It's like I have the same things. Like I used to like to eat cookies and cake. Like I still like gravitate toward those things that were comfort foods or whatever.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying, comfort food.
It
And that's why you cycle back to it sometimes, because usually it's during emotional events that lead people back to eating poorly again.
Parents divorce, whatever. You're changing schools, different things that just throw you out of your comfort zone.
And oftentimes we don't realize that if we can just deal with those moments of anxiety by changing our perspective onto something else, we can bypass that trigger and not eat the potato chips.
I find
not
too.
Not go buy the ice cream, not go buy the soda.
Yeah, and instead of trying to bypass the emotion, just feeling it and just understanding that this is a process. Like I have to feel this so that I can move on from it. If I don't actually stop and feel whatever I'm feeling, then it hangs with me and I feel heavy, until I actually go, okay, this is why, and understand it, acknowledge it. Like you said last week, you have to acknowledge the situation,
talk it out,
the
and
emotion.
then let it go, and don't bring it up anymore.
Yeah, and then you can move on once you acknowledge it. But you can't just assume that it's not there and like, I'm okay and I'm just going to eat sugar instead, or I'm going to have a pop or I'm going to do whatever. You have to acknowledge it.
People can avoid negative conversations and negative talk. They just have to learn how to control a conversation. And when somebody's talking that way, they either got to hang up or turn it around.
Yeah.
And that's not just for your emotional health, it's for your whole physical health as well. Because the research shows that affects you.
Yeah, like you said last week, negative emotions,
compromise your
immune system versus happy emotions make you feel better. It's like having your grandkids over, right? You got to redirect when they get emotionally upset.
Yep.
Same with parents and kids and all of us.
And all the food. You can redirect your cravings the same way.
Yeah, I need to work on that. How do you do that?
Same way. Change your perspective. Stop thinking about it. Find something else to think about and focus on.
Yeah.
Change the conversation. Your body will, I don't know if you've ever fasted, fast for 24 hours. I fasted for 3 days one time. Mm-hmm. No water.
No water?
No food. By the third day, I was delirious.
Crazy.
But
you're fasting right now.
But it was a neat experience. They say you can't go more than about 3 days without any water at all. I think you'd probably go a little longer.
7.
But you went 7 days without any water?
Without water?
Food, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Eric beat my record. What were you doing, Eric? What did you do? What did you do?
Survived.
Yeah,
why were you doing that? What happened?
Hell, yeah, I just wanted to try it. Someone said try it, and I did.
No water.
Yeah, no water.
7 days. Did you brush your teeth?
I did brush my teeth.
How did you not get water?
Did you keep track? Did you look at your weight? Did you lose
I lost quite a bit of weight, yeah. I was in Arizona, and it was super hot.
Oh, wow.
And it was not the summer, but
it's amazing you didn't die from that, Eric.
Probably could have, yeah.
Yeah.
I was riding my bike, getting around.
What?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that could have killed you.
Could have.
We
don't recommend that, by the way.
No,
fast in Arizona for 7 days.
But if you want details about Eric's experience, he could share that with you on it.
I'll write a blog about it.
Yes. Yeah.
No, so what's interesting about you is at day 3 you said delirious. I felt like around day 3 or 4 I started having no need. Like I was not hungry. My body just is like, you're good. I was still thirsty, like my throat was dry and stuff, but I wasn't like craving food. Like usually when I fast for 24 hours or so, I'm starving by like 8-10 hours into it.
I would have to agree with you that I wasn't really craving the food. I was needing. I was thirsty though. But I think I told you I went 11 days one time, and I did document some of the experience. Went 11 days with with water, drank water, but no food.
Yeah, wow.
And I lost 19 pounds in 11 days.
Yeah.
And I had originally planned to go 30, and then I thought, 11's enough. I kind of proved to myself how it worked and what it would do, and I got to say I wasn't feeling well by that time, and feeling very weak. But you look at most diets, typically if you transition from, say, a regular high carbohydrate fat diet to a low carb type of diet, usually the second to third day is the most difficult for people when they're really craving the sugar. So, and then usually if you can get past that, then you're okay. But my point in what we were talking about, how do you change that trigger? You just power through it and you keep your mind focused on other things.
Keep busy.
And keep your mind focused on the goal too. What am I trying to accomplish with this? Your goal needs to be significant enough to make you keep going. A lot of people don't make it past that second and third day because of that thing. They start craving those things and they give in, and it's like a baseball player. don't take your eye off the ball. You
Yeah.
know?
It reminds me of like Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's like you almost have to take one meal at a time. Like, okay, I'm not going to do sugar this meal, or I'm not going to drink pop, or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like a struggle every meal
Yeah.
until it becomes not a struggle, I guess. I don't know. I haven't done
Well,
it.
see, I've cut out all types of processed sugar, processed food. Haven't eaten any junk food in any way for almost a month now.
Wow.
Feel a whole lot better. I wouldn't say that, as a chiropractor, I try to eat healthy. In fact, I was kind of following the 5-7, 5-2 rule with the 7 days, where you spend the 5 days eating well, and then on the weekends just kind of eat whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Gotten away from that, and I feel better because of it. But that is a way people can maintain their weight once they get off a diet, and I found that very successful. But it's better not to have any of it all, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Next thing on the agenda is anything else about plastics? Heavy metals. Heavy metals, briefly.
Okay.
Types of heavy metals commonly found in water include manganese, lead, arsenic, chromium, and copper. A whole lot of other things in there too, but those are some big ones. But like I said, copper, manganese, those things in small amounts are actually good for us. But the lead, arsenic, and chromium, probably not. Filters, water filters. Everyone should have a filter of some kind on their home, because the water coming into your house can contain, just about all the filters today are very good at removing bacteria as well. Viruses, most of them say like 99.9% kind of thing. So viruses, molds, things like that, I think are pretty well inhibited from getting through with the good filters. But
Are you just saying for drinking water, or for all water, like showering and brushing your teeth and all?
If you think about it, that's why having a whole house filter is the best way to go, because it takes all that stuff out. But again, reconsider the issue, and we'll probably, I know Ocean Based Naturals is their sponsor, is working on many natural products, and one of those things too eventually will be a mineral supplement, and so resupply those things that we often lack in our water, and something you can just pour into your drinking water. So once it's been filtered, add it in there and drink your water, and you'll be getting what you need.
So you just like add a couple drops to your glass of water or something, or your water bottle? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great.
And, there's other stuff out there now too. But be careful. Not all of it's great. A lot of electrolyte supplements or electrolyte drinks carry a lot of sugar in them, or artificial sweeteners.
A lot of salt too.
Yeah. And all that's hard on your system. Overabundance of anything is not good.
Electrolytes are minerals.
Electrolytes are minerals.
Okay.
Yes. Here's another one. Any questions about the minerals?
I was just going to say too, we're going to have a link to all these articles in the show notes too. So we've got tons of articles that we're reading through here. So be sure to check out the show notes for all this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. Next one. So let's move on to food. Food. Eric was talking about French fries.
Yeah.
Here's another article.
What's your favorite French fry? Just kidding.
Okay. Another article. Inflammatory bowel disease has historically been a problem primarily in Western countries such as the U.S., but it's becoming more common globally as more and more people adopt Western lifestyles. A researcher in the Department of Pathology and Immunology at Washington University School of Medicine states, our research shows that long-term consumption of Western-style diet high in fat and sugar impairs the function of immune cells in the gut in ways that could promote inflammatory bowel disease or increase the risk of intestinal infection. In the study, Dr. Liu and colleagues analyzed a database containing demographic and clinical data on 400 people, including an assessment of each person's pathogen cells. They found that high body mass index, BMI, was associated with pathogen cells, and it looked abnormal and unhealthy. They all looked abnormal and healthy under a microscope.
Pathogen cells?
Pathogen cells.
What's that?
Pathogen cells are just another one of those cells in your system associated in your gut that connect to your immunity and inflammation.
Okay.
So there is that. Fast food is trashing our systems. All these autoimmune and inflammatory diseases. I mean, look at what we've talked about so far. We've talked about alcohol, how it affects your gut and immunity. I think one of the things we didn't mention about alcohol, and I forgot to say, is when you put alcohol in your system, what's it doing to your gut flora? What is alcohol? Okay, all of our hand sanitizers are the main ones that say 99% kill approved by the FDA is alcohol. You put it on your skin, it kills all the bacteria. What does it do when you put it in your stomach? Killing your gut flora.
Oh, yeah.
So it's wiping out the gut flora. And oftentimes when you kill the good flora, the bad flora comes back faster and overruns the good flora. And that's when you start having these immunity issues. Chiropractors and naturopaths and holistic nutritionists, acupuncturists, all the alternative healing professions have been saying for years and years and years. And I mean, going back probably 100 years, have been saying we're trashing our gut flora with all this stuff. Now the medical community is finally starting to do the research that's proving everything they've been saying all along. And so going in and eating right, you fix the flora and you reduce the diseases that are occurring in the body.
Okay, so two
Simple
things
fact.
I wanted to say. So, like when I drink alcohol, which is rare, I wake up the next day and I almost feel puffy.
Oh yeah,
Like
because it
from-
immediately causes inflammation
So it's
throughout
like
the body.
inflammation all over.
Yeah.
And then second, the other thing was like last night, a couple of the kids are feeling like they have a little cold. So I try to clean up what we eat when we do that. And so we had like asparagus and, cucumbers and strawberries and stuff like that. And my stomach doesn't feel as bloated when I eat the good stuff like that. And I just wake up feeling better. I sleep better. It's amazing. I don't, I should be more strict with myself because it makes me feel so much better.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that too, because some people, when they transition from the processed food diet, and by the way, those processed foods also have all the PFAS and plastics in them too, because of the packaging.
Yeah.
The
Think of cereal.
we're gonna end the show talking about cosmetics, which is next. But plastics are added to so many things these days for different reasons. We talked about over 1,200 different processed food packaging products and processed foods that have all these things in them.
Crackers, cereal, cookies, all the chips,
Everything has these substances in them. They put them in there because they help. Some help with preservation. Some help with slipperiness of the material, so the stuff doesn't stick to the sides of the bag.
Oh, sure.
And all that leaches into the food. So anything processed, anything in a bag, a bottle, a can, anything you go buy at not just the fast food restaurants, but everywhere you go to dine, everywhere you go to eat out, you're going to find this stuff.
What were you saying, too, the other day I was talking to you? You said something about it's on, like, everything you purchase, like blankets, clothes.
Yes, furniture, everything.
Carpet.
Yep.
All of it. It's sprayed on there.
Yeah.
For antimicrobial.
Yeah, some of the things are antimicrobial as well.
But they're chemicals.
Yeah, they're chemicals, and so when you got a brand new carpet and you go roll around in the carpet with your little baby and everything's fun, yeah.
How do you get it out though? Because how is there carpets that don't have it?
Good question.
Wonder.
I don't know of any. Maybe
Yeah.
there are people out there creating things now that are trying to improve all that. The simple fact is we are showered in our society because of greed and the want of money with all this stuff. And things are improving, things are changing, and more research is being done. And what can you do today? Let's talk about that at the end. Let's mention briefly cosmetics. Unless you had
Before you
anything
get
else.
into that really quick,
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
I came from the construction industry, and one of the things that a lot of building going on now is called LEED,
Yeah.
L-E-E-D, I think, Leadership in Environmental Engineering Design. And they talk about using clean products. You can have different levels of building, like silver, gold, and platinum. Platinum, you have to abide by all these clean things, right? So VOC is a chemical that comes out from the paint after you paint. It comes out from the glue in the carpet and the wood and all those type of things. So when you're building a clean building, as soon as you're done, all the employees come in, they get sick that first couple of weeks because of all the off-gassing of all these materials. And so they're trying to have low VOC products, which is good. So I guess that, to your point, there are people who are doing things about it. It's just super expensive to use those type of products. You could be spending 2 or 3 times as much money to build the same thing with a healthier product. So
But it is possible, you're saying.
it is. But most people don't choose it because of the cost.
Well, I want to talk about at the end, when we end the show today, what you can do. But I wanted to briefly mention cosmetics. We have in the past mentioned cosmetics and skincare products, and they have lots of these things in them. Many of these substances have been outlawed in Europe and other countries, but the United States, they're trying to pass more and more laws to do so. Let's see. Okay, here's one from an article. Be cautious of buying products labeled as smoothing, revitalizing, or scrubbing the body. Look out for ingredients such as acrylates, styrene, copolymer, polyethylene. Although we did talk a little bit about polyethylene bottles. Make sure you're using polyethylene. They're thick bottles. They leach less than the thicker ones. Nylon and PMMA. These are all nano or microplastics.
Oh.
Instead, look for products made from natural materials with as few ingredients as possible. Goes back to what Ocean Bay Naturals and the other parts of Earth Corporation are creating. We're all focused on these kinds of things, putting as few ingredients as necessary in the product to perform a function that's beneficial to your skin, to your body in a healthy way, and getting rid of all this stuff. So you should pay attention. Read your bottles. Pay attention. It matters. None of this stuff, it's like cigarettes. None of it kills you right away.
Yeah.
But its accumulation of all kinds of stuff is slowly eating away at your system. Modern medicine has figured out how to make you live to be 90, 100 years old by feeding you medications that keep you alive, help your heart keep pumping, and all that. But look at most of those people, their brains are gone.
Oh, yeah.
And that brain effect is coming from all the things we're talking about here. The destruction of your gut flora leads to chronic inflammation in your body, which leads to these autoimmune diseases, the allergies, and all these disorders, Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. All these things are all autoimmunity issues, and it's because of the chronic inflammation that began with dysfunction of your gut flora. It all started there. And dysfunction of your stomach, and the digestive process of not enough, everybody dumping these antacids into their system, drinking alkaline water. Terrible for you. I'm sorry for all those alkaline water advocates.
Why is it bad for you?
It's ridiculous to pour alkaline water into your stomach when you need a pH of 3, and now you've just poured in a pH of 8 to 9, and now all of a sudden your body's got to dump a whole much more acid in your gut to get to where it can digest your food. You have an acidic gut all the way from your mouth is fairly neutral, about a 7, maybe slightly acidic, a little lower into the 6.5 to 7. You get down in your gut, it goes way low, down to 3 and even lower. Then you get into your intestinal tract, and it stays at below a 7 all the way through. Well, you're dumping stuff in there that's at an 8 or 9. What are you doing? It's got minerals in it, and the minerals are good, but the pH is not good. So that's why I don't encourage people to drink.
So alkaline is the
water.
opposite of acidic.
Yes.
And so you want your
the pH
gut.
scale goes from 0 to 14. 14 is the most basic, and down to 1 is 0 is the most acidic you can get.
Okay.
So you need. The acid is very good at breaking the food down in your system, in your gut. So digestion starts in your mouth.
Okay.
So you start chewing, you should always chew your food well. The saliva actually creates a little more acidity, starts digesting the food there in your mouth, and you chew it all up, you masticate it, and you swallow it, goes to your stomach, and then it sits in your stomach until the stomach liquefies it. That's oftentimes what's happening. You talked about eating vegetables, and I was going to mention that some people, when they switch from a poor Western style diet of fast foods and high sugar and high fat foods, when they start eating vegetables, often they'll end up with upset stomachs. They'll end up with more gas because they've so disrupted their gut flora that they don't have the good flora in there to now digest the good foods. And it will take a while for their body to get used to eating the good things again. So sometimes, obviously, your system is fairly clean, even though maybe you eat a little junk now and then. The majority of the time, you're eating the good things. So your flora is there to digest it, and you don't get the bloat. Bloat is caused by the gases let off in the digestive process. And so in that case, it's flowing through normally as it should and not creating the bloat. Most people that eat a good diet after a while, like cabbage, things like that, can cause a lot of intestinal gas initially in the lower bowel. But if you're used to eating it, if you consistently eat it over time, all that will go away because the flora will readjust and begin to digest it properly, and you don't get the gas, the fermentation. Fermentation occurs in the stomach too. If you raise the pH of the gut, and so the foods, let's say you drink some alkaline water, or anything with a high pH, you drink it sitting in your stomach. That's another reason why they say drinking a lot of water during the eating process isn't good. Sipping on water is best if you just need a little lubricant to get it down. which is what I do. But drinking a whole lot of water with your food isn't good because it slows down your digestion. When that happens in your stomach, the food starts to ferment before it's totally liquefied to pass out of your system. That causes bloating, and it slows down the digestive process, so it takes longer for it to pass into the small intestine and onward. Once it hits the small intestine, your gallbladder dumps out lipase that begins the digesting process of the fats. And the proteins, they digest more there. It makes them even smaller so that when they hit into the small intestine, they start being absorbed into the system and utilized.
Yeah. I was picturing it in my head as you were saying it. So yeah. And I was thinking about some of the supplements that I'm taking, like the Zypan is very acidic in my mouth.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose of the Zypan.
You're adding acid.
There's actually several things from Standard Process that we love. And
like AF beta food, that's to help the gallbladder, right?
That's what the liver and gallbladder
boosts their
function. Lots of good stuff out there that can help you, whenever we have somebody, we have, as chiropractic doctors, nutritionists, we get people coming into us. Usually we're the last ones to be seen. In our society, everybody has been brainwashed into believing that the first thing you should do if you don't feel well is go to your medical doctor. First thing I do agree with the side of if you're injured, don't go to the chiropractor. Injured where the skin is broken. If you're injured and there's no bleeding involved, the chiropractor might be the first place you want to go. Neck pain, back pain, joint pain, all those kinds of injuries. Chiropractic's probably number one, but if you got bleeding going on, go to the emergency care, okay? As far as the drugs they'll give you there, can't stand the pain, okay, take it for a while. Whatever you can endure. I'm not like a total absolutist when it comes to never taking medication or anything, but I haven't been to a medical doctor or into a hospital the majority of my life because I can take care of everything naturally. The only time I've been is when I've had severe injuries that needed emergency care. And I think our system is wonderful for that. It's amazing how much they can help people in that way. And the drugs involved with, even the antibiotics damage our microbes in our system. So anytime anybody takes a dose of antibiotics, and more medical doctors are beginning to recognize this and talk about it, is you need to replenish your flora, fix your flora. Sometimes, I've even seen it in some of the medical shows on TV. I like to watch those because they fascinate me. Sometimes I laugh at what they do, and other times I'm amazed at what they do. But the whole idea back behind the antibiotics, yes, they go in, they help the body fight those infections. However, they also damage the normal flora in your gut.
The good.
And so you need to really eat well and eat good foods. A lot of the fruits and vegetables, the raw stuff, and especially the organic stuff, have a lot of good microbes in them. So that's how your flora, your initial flora, develops from mom and the breast milk, and being around mom and other people. The environment is where you build your natural flora, and if you kill that off, you can rebuild it. But it even goes so far. I saw some medical show not long ago, instance where they actually did insert fecal matter back into somebody whose normal flora had been so trashed, they were able to rebuild it by inserting, processing the fecal matter from a healthy person, putting it in a liquid form and injecting it back into the lower bowel of somebody, and it works. And they're not they've talked about and done these kinds of things for years, but now it's becoming more of a, more in mainstream.
What about like probiotics?
Probiotics, they temporarily work. Research has shown that typically most probiotics don't settle in your system and stay there. They don't replenish or revitalize your normal flora. Really, it's the foods you need to fix your flora. You need to eat the raw vegetables and fruits to help with that because there are microbes in there. Some people go, there are people out there that become so extreme they'll go out and pick up some dirt and eat it because there's lots of microbes in dirt.
I'm thinking about.
I don't go there.
Yeah.
By the way, but just bringing it up because some people go that far. But think about really good, healthy soil. It's full of those microbes.
I'm thinking about raw vegetables. I mean, I do lettuce, cucumbers. Carrots are kind of hard for my teeth right now. I cook most of my vegetables, is what I'm saying, so I wouldn't get a ton of.
Well, walk into a the health food stores, Sprouts, got Fraser Farms around here. We got Whole Foods and many of them, even the small ones. A lot of them carry organic and not organic vegetables, so you got to be careful even in those places because they carry it all. It's all about the money even there, so they're going to carry whatever people will buy.
That's true.
And so you got to make sure it says that, and you will pay more for organic, but if you're thinking about your health, you want those microbes, you want the good health, you want to eat, and you want to walk around and see all those vegetables that you look at and go, how do you pronounce that name? Do you eat Swiss chard? Do you eat kale? Do you?
I do, yes.
Not really.
You
do,
know,
Eric?
I like Eric's idea. Don't you like take pounds of spinach and dry them?
So at Costco, they sell this big thing of spinach and
and it's organic, right?
Yeah, organic. It's like $3 for this huge bag. And I take that, wash it. Every time I wash it, I pull out at least 3 or 4 bugs.
Oh.
Mud, dirt, all sorts of random stuff. So I don't do a great job. So I clean it all. I just put it in my like laundry room sink and let it soak for a while. And then I put it in my food dryer.
Do you soak it in the filtered water?
I don't. I should do that.
Yes, you
Just
need to
soak
be
it in
doing
tap
that.
water, yeah.
You need to be doing that.
So anyway, so I do that, run through the spinner, and then put it in our food dryer, and then let it sit for about 18 to 20 hours, and it gets nice and crisp. And then I put it in our food processor, and then I grind it up into like a powder. And I just put that in my protein shake, and
That's great.
every scoop is like eating probably 8 bowls of salad, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you're getting a lot of,
Yeah.
a lot. Even though you've dried it in a somewhat natural way, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is still there.
Yeah.
So all the
Yeah.
good stuff.
Oh,
is
you can
still
tell
there.
the difference. Yeah, because I used to just shove the leaves and everything in there, but it took up so much space in my blender that there wasn't any room for anything else. So this.
Yeah, and you're getting a concentrated version of all those nutrients.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to compare the two and say what's better to eat a smoothie from the raw vegetable,
Yeah.
blended up, made into a smoothie, that actually probably is better because everything's moist. The live microbes are still in there. When you dry it, those microbes,
Yeah.
they're still there. The living ones, but what do the microbes do? How do they reproduce? Those cells are still there, so it's still helping.
Yeah.
So and you're getting concentrated amounts, so that's healthy for you too.
Yeah.
What is it that's in spinach and kale and all that? Because there's something, like we've tried to do the green smoothies before in our family and
Can't stand them?
something with our genetics. I liked how they tasted, but something in our genetics caused us to not be able to go to the bathroom as well, like not be able to pee. So some people they're not able to do the greens like that. It's like a kidney thing. I don't know if it's oxalates or something like that. There's something in those green leafy vegetables that not everyone can process.
Well, like anything, it ties back to your flora. It really does. You're not digesting it well.
Yeah.
And so, because you're not used to eating it. So what I recommend to people, and even allergists, work on this level where, okay, let's introduce something in very small amounts.
Yeah.
Slowly add small amounts, more and more and more, and eventually the body becomes accustomed, used to it. Your flora begins to change some because it's getting good bacteria from those substances.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're eating it, your body's reacting to it a little bit in a negative way. But I would recommend that you start taking it in very small quantities, and you'll find over time you'll be able to tolerate it more and receive the benefit you're looking for.
Okay.
So it's just that you're having a reaction to something you're not used to.
And maybe by putting it in a smoothie, you're drinking too much at one time.
Yeah.
Maybe too concentrated.
Yeah.
I tend to do that. I overdo things.
Yeah. So just do a lot smaller amounts to start,
Baby
a little bit at a
steps.
time, and work up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, we've gone through the lists of bad chemicals. We've placed it on previous podcasts. The formaldehyde, the paraformaldehyde, the methyl glycol, mercury, diethylhexane, phosphates, phthalates, and, the list goes on and on of all the stuff and the crap that's in cosmetics. And everybody's putting this stuff on their skin, and it's being absorbed into their bodies. There's plastics in the cosmetics, and intentionally put there, by the way, like I mentioned before, the scrubs. Actually, plastic can be a scrub, the larger particles. Make sure none of that stuff is in there. We're producing a body scrub, not yet on the market, but soon will be, and it doesn't use any of that in it. So
Yeah, it's interesting. So just talk about that real quick. We are creating a sugar scrub, and I was at Target doing some research, and you look at the label of ingredients, and there's like 80 things, and I'm like,
What?
half the things you can't pronounce, but yeah, some of them are these nanoplastics in there, and
so unnecessary.
Yeah.
So unnecessary.
Why?
Ours will have probably
3
maybe
ingredients, yeah.
max half a dozen ingredients.
yeah.
They
work.
and they'll all be natural and good for the body, good for the skin, and so yeah.
Why would you put plastic in some? I don't understand that.
It's abrasive.
Yeah.
In a scrub.
Scrubs.
It's abrasive. So you
Is it a hard particle in the thing?
Scrubs are intended to defoliate. So basically, you're scrubbing off that outer layer of skin, and when you lose the outer layer, it initiates a process that the body's. You got 7 layers of skin, so the lower layers are okay. Produce another layer, kind of thing, as you scrub it off. So what ours will do, it'll have that effect, but it also will add in, like for instance, when you use the scrub, you just tore off your sebum layer, which is your protective layer to keep out the bacteria and viruses and all those things that can enter our body, the dirt and the heavy metals in the air and the plastics in the air. It protects us from entering through our skin, the sebum layer. So you just washed it all off when you scrubbed it off. So what ours will do is help replenish that.
The protective barrier.
It'll put a protective barrier back on there and allow your body to reproduce that sebum layer and so basically it's giving you protection again.
Yeah.
And healing to the skin at the same time. So what can you do here at the end here? Any other questions about any of that? So I just want to bring up what can we do? What can we do? Well, okay, we talked a little bit about not a lot we can do now about our water, but people are working on it. We can do our air filtration systems. Some of them can take it down to absorb to filtering out as small as 3 microns. So those are the HEPA filters. So those are filters. You can get those things. I believe you can get them, the big thick ones that can go into your furnace, or buy the units that just go into your house and put them in your bedrooms and maybe in your family room. Run them at least when you're in the house, if not all the time. They stop eating all the processed foods, all the packaged foods. They're convenient. And so everybody uses them. That's why our Western way of lifestyle is picking up around the world, because we're all rushing to do everything all day long, and we want the simplest, easiest way to eat and do all the other things that humans must do to live. And so cut out the processed foods, eat more fruits and vegetables, lower your meat intake, because meats have been shown to cause inflammation in the body too. I'm not a total vegetarian. People are, and if they're satisfied and happy with that, fine. There are ways, as Ted told us on the nutritional immunity segment. What number podcast was that? Do you remember?
Ted was 17.
Ted was 17, okay. So go back to listen to podcast 17 if you want more nutritional info there. But change your diet. Change your diet will change the flora in your gut and help your immune system. When someone walks into our office and they've got an autoimmune disorder, or they've been dealing with some kind of immunity issue, or just plain, my gut hurts all the time, my stomach has problems all the time. I've gone to the medical doctors, they gave me all the drugs, none of them worked. Okay, not to say that none of them work long term. I don't want to cut down the total, we're not total anti-medical here, but a lot of the cases we get are the ones that they've tried everything else and then we're the last resort. And I'm okay being that way. Yeah. I'd like people to come to us first and then go secondly, if what we do doesn't work, to consider the surgeries and the drugs. But right now, the opposite occurs. Most people go to the alternative healthcare people after they've tried everything else. And what's cool about that is we help them when no one else did. Or sometimes you're so severely damaged that we can't do a whole lot for you anymore. And so you don't want to get there. What do we do with people when they walk into our office? One of the things we work on giving them a diet program that will help them to improve their diet, get off the crappy food, start eating properly, and then provide supplements that help heal and what's referred to as seal the gut. You've heard of leaky gut syndrome. That occurs when your gut's so broken down that tissues in the intestinal tract and in the stomach are now allowing substances that you've eaten to actually seep into your system, not go in the proper way as a micronutrient, going into the capillaries and into the blood and then through the liver before it goes to the rest of your body. It actually is seeping through other areas, and what happens is you immediately cause an increase of inflammation and an autoimmune response, because the body sees it as a foreign substance now. And so chronic inflammation is occurring when you have that problem. So we provide supplements that help heal that. We increase most people have low acid in their gut and their stomach, and that's why they're not digesting the food properly, which leads to the leaky gut. So you got to get that food digesting properly. You got to get off the antacids and start having things like you mentioned, the Zypan. There's several other things that we use besides the Zypan, because we do testing with people and we see, is the Zypan going to be good for you, or one of the other supplements that help heal and seal the gut going to be better, or a combination of things. And we figure that out before that's why we tell people, companies like Standard Process that produce whole food supplements, and there aren't very many of them. Most of the stuff you're buying over the counter out there has been synthesized in a lab and or processed in some way, taken from the farm, but then ultra processed afterwards. That's the main reason why we stick with Standard Process, because they don't do it that way, and we're slowly finding that other companies are beginning to copy their way of doing things And so that's an improvement, and that's great. But the point is, you've got to fix the digestion before you can fix anything else. And so we focus on the digestion. One of the things we put people on is a cleanse, depending on the person's condition. We have everything from a 24-hour flush that we recommend, especially with people with gallbladder issues. I can't count the number of times people have come into us with gallbladder pain. The doctors want to cut their gallbladder out, which is it's one of the more common surgeries in America, I believe. The gallbladder and appendix. They're easy surgeries now, and so you got pain, cut it out. Both of those things, the appendix as well as the gallbladder, are part of function as part of the immune system. You got appendicitis and it's infected and it bursts. That could be a major bad thing. So I'm not telling people not to get their appendix out if you develop appendicitis. However, if you're eating right and doing things right, eating the right foods, taking care of yourself, you're not going to get that unless you got some genetic predisposition that ultimately leads to the problem. But the gallbladder is so significant to our health. And, the medical community, I think as they're beginning to learn all this, they see significance. But, the creation of gallstones start actually in the liver, and it's when you take a gallstone, it's covered in cholesterol. So the liver, a lot of people used to say, "Oh, stop eating everything with cholesterol. It's going to raise your cholesterol." The cholesterol in your blood is created in the liver. The cholesterol in the eggs is broken down by your body, and it enters into the bloodstream, goes to the liver, and is processed. What you have in your system, what's clogging your arteries, is not the cholesterol you're eating; it's the cholesterol being created in the liver. Why is the liver creating the cholesterol? Because you've got problems in your body. There is research out there and philosophy to show that it's possible that one of the reasons you get plaque in your arteries is it's a form of patching. Your body's patching those damaged arterial walls. Just a theory.
Oh.
But that cholesterol forms into little balls, and those are the cholesterol. Those are your gallstones. They're little cholesterol balls. Actually, if you poop out one, and it does come out in your poop because you're constantly creating those things. A real healthy system the cholesterol comes out in flakes in their feces, and you can't really see it. You typically won't see a cholesterol stone because of its color is the same color as your poop.
Oh.
However, there's gallbladder and liver flush that we recommend to people. It's a 24-hour flush, and we've had many people who have had gallbladder symptoms, gallbladder pain. I've had it myself and done the 24-hour flush. Get the stones out in your feces because during the flush you'll have diarrhea and you'll be able to see the stones. And there's articles out there fighting that they're even stones or that that's the real stones. But the result is what says to me the fact that you've got pain in the gallbladder, you do the flush, and the pain goes away, and you see these little, everything from BB size up to quarter size balls in your feces, and 2 and 2 equals 4, right?
What does gallbladder pain feel like? Where is that, and what is it?
It's in the lower right quadrant of if you feel at the bottom of your ribs, probably down towards the lower 10th, 11th, 12th rib. That's where you'll feel it, like under the ribs there.
Okay.
Or right in that area. Your liver, it sits right there next to the liver. And so it goes through the bile duct from the liver. And the stones are shown, they've taken livers apart of people that have died, and they find these same cholesterol stones inside the liver. So it appears the stones are being created in the liver, moving into the gallbladder. And when they come out of the liver too large, then they get stuck. The gallbladder's trying to open and dump its contents. The stones get stuck. And so it won't come out. The flush actually causes the gallbladder to just really open up and let it go. So
to get rid of the gallstones, or to lessen them, you're saying eat less meat, you said? Or less fat?
No.
What did you say? Did I totally miss that?
Close.
No, not at all.
What's really creating those stones is your crappy diet. The body, because your body's in a state of inflammation and your immune system is running on high, you're creating more of the cholesterol.
Just from inflammation in the body?
Yes.
Okay. So it has nothing to do with fat?
Well, it's using the fat. The fat's what turns into the cholesterol. So a high-fat diet, yeah, you're going to have more cholesterol, but that high-fat diet causes... See, eating that crappy high-sugar, high-fat diet has damaged your flora. It's not digesting the food right. That excessive amount of fat and sugar is flowing into your system, going through the liver, and is causing general inflammation throughout your body. And because it's running on high, and because of the excess amount of fats and sugars you've eaten, it causes the increased production of the cholesterol. It's not because you've eaten a lot of cholesterol, but you've eaten a lot of fat.
Yeah.
And the fat's converted. Some of the fat is in the form of cholesterol, but the liver is what converts it into the white cholesterol that forms the plaque that forms in your bloodstream, and from your liver that forms the stones. They've taken apart stones. One of the reasons you might form stones as well is because of high amounts of bad bacteria in your system is passing. They've taken these stones and analyzed the ingredients of the stones, and they often find remnants of bacteria and parasites in the stones. Oh. So one of the other things we do is we always check people for parasites. We think in America it's only in third world countries that you have parasites in your system, and that's such a load of crap. There's parasites in our food. You go out to eat, you have undercooked meat, you eat a lot of sushi, whatever. There's bacteria, there's parasite eggs and things like that in the food. And even that's why I suggest, even with the organic vegetables, you need to clean them thoroughly. We're also working on and you can buy these things out there already, but on a vegetable and fruit spray that you can clean your stuff off with beforehand, so that it kills any of those eggs, or at least if not kill them, it washes them off. Mm-hmm. So you want to, I remember years ago, my grandmother, she would always put, she'd wash off her grapes and other vegetables. She'd dump, into a bowl, maybe a gallon's worth of water into a bowl, and maybe put a teaspoon to a tablespoon of salt in there, and then rinse it thoroughly through whatever she was getting ready to eat, and that would help kill what was in there and help wash off what might still be on there, because you can find, a lot of our vegetables coming into the country now come from Mexico, other parts of the world where their sanitation might not be so great. And so it's good. I know it takes more time, but it's good to wash all that stuff clean before you eat it, especially if you're going to eat it raw.
If you're cooking it, does it kill it?
Yeah, most cooking will kill it. I just say lower the meat intake because it's high in fat. Oftentimes, the leaner meats are better. Fish is the best. Fish is very lean, and it has all the omegas in it that we're after, that we know is good for brain health and the vascular system.
Just run the risk of heavy metal toxins after that.
Well, I can't remember. I remember reading somewhere where you'd have to eat. There is evidence that there is mercury in tuna and salmon and things like that, because we polluted our oceans and other things that are in the seawater. The fish tend to filter many of those things out. There are small amounts still in those. However, I think the red meats, think about it. The land animals are exposed to all those things as well. In fact, they're eating the grass and that comes from the soil that's been contaminated with pesticides and heavy metals. And, I should bring up one article discussed, if you live near any kind of manufacturing plant that manufactures anything in large quantities and uses the local water system in the process, or the ocean, you definitely need to be more concerned, because you're more likely to be exposed to heavy metals and plastics and all kinds of other things. So you definitely need air filters, water filters, and need to eat well to be healthy.
So this might be a little controversial, but I was watching this video on Arizona yesterday and the growth that's happening there. And these big chip manufacturers are there, right? And they use tons of water, like several million gallons of water a day. And they said over the course of a year, we'll process billions of gallons of water, and we have to recycle it because the state doesn't have enough water. So we put it back into the system. And how well do you think they're recycling that water, right? And now everyone's drinking all the water around that area.
Yeah, and so I don't care what your water tastes like. Don't drink water from the tap. Get filters. It's just got stuff in it. The cities and counties and all that are doing their best to filter the water. They're most concerned with bacterial exposure, so they do things to kill the bugs, and that's their main concern when they look at the quality of the water. They do try to limit the metals as well, but they're all still there. I remember testing. I have a meter, and you can get these meters just about anywhere. Maybe we should put a link onto the PPM meters. They say they're not 100% accurate, but I found them to do all right. I've tested my water, regular tap water at home. It'll test out at 3, 4, even 500 parts per million and what it's registering is metals. in tap water.
What
in
should
my
it
tap
be?
water. Well, it just depends. A filtered water will be anywhere probably from 0 to 20. And so if you got over that, I would be concerned. What that 0 to 20 is still left in there, okay, probably micro amounts of still some of those metals, but it's better than taking a full load constantly of that stuff, because as it's put into your system, it's again affecting your gut flora, your digestion, your all your cells in your stomach, your intestines. They automatically see those things as foreign bodies and react with an inflammatory process because of it. Mm-hmm. So the things you can do, eat better, start eating more organic fruits and vegetables, lower your meat consumption, try to eat. I pretty much stick with fish every now and then. I'll have a little chicken and beef. I do like a good steak now and then. But I tend to focus, if I'm going to have any meat, I have fish. And I usually stick with salmon and cod. That's just what I do. I've read studies that say you'd have to eat tons and tons and tons of the fish to really ever have the mercury content in it to cause neurological damage in your body. But again, what is this whole explanation really saying is it sucks. We're exposed to all this stuff on a daily basis constantly, and a lot of it we can't do a lot about, but there is some things we can do about, and this is what we're saying. The other thing, so fix your food, fix what you're drinking, and fix your gut, and fix the gut flora in your gut. Those things are very significant. Doing these cleanses, there's cleanses that will work with pulling heavy metals out of your system. There's cleanses that will clear out all that crap in your system, lower the chronic immune response through fixing the gut. We've got 2-week flush, two-week cleanses, 30-day cleanses, 3-month cleanses. Really depends on the person and what they're dealing with. So there are things you can do, and we'll put up information about these cleanses as well, links to those things, so that you can do them at home if you.
So it's really about just kind of filtering everything in your life, from the air to the food to the cosmetics to everything. Just clean up the chemicals so that your gut can be healthy, and then the rest of your body can be healthy after that, right?
It's not time for a hazmat suit for everyone yet, just Nikki, but we're moving.
We're getting there.
We're not far from it, unless things change. And so yes, that's what I'm saying.
So doing small things on a daily basis that add up to that clean, healthy living, which is what we're trying to do here on the show.
Yeah, and we don't want people to be miserable, and you've got to decide for yourself what you care about. I find out that I'm happier if I feel good. Yeah. And so if I exercise consistently, if I'm eating right, and I keep my emotional life in check, so that it's funny enough, if you're healthy, you respond to traumatic issues much better. Mm-hmm. You don't react with anger. You don't react with hatred or fear. You just take things more smoothly and figure out the solution to the problem instead of panicking and reacting to the circumstances. And that's really where we all would like to be. That's really where happiness is found, I think. And so to do that, you need to be healthy. And when you're not healthy, you'll be the grumpy guy on the freeway that chases the other guy who just cut him off, and you don't want to be that guy. We all want to just get along and be happy, and that's the easiest way I've found to be that way, and to have a long life of quality. I don't want to live to be 90 if the last 5 years of my life I don't know who you are and who I am, and I'm sitting there drooling on myself in a rest home. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be that way. If I would rather live to 70 and have a good quality of life than live to 100 and be miserable the last 30 years. Yeah. So this is how you fix it. This is how you help yourself. Use it if you want to. If you're satisfied with, hey, I just want to live and not deal with all the difficulties connected, because it does take more work and more time to live this way, then there you go. We're learning the result of the crappy way of Western living, and more research is proving that it's detrimental to our brain, our health, and the way we think and live.
So there's a good wrap up. If you want a healthy life, keep listening to this podcast and do the things we're saying. And if not, keep drilling in your retirement home, right? And we'll call it a show.
And really, no matter how far gone you are, there are things you can do to improve it. Sometimes you can't recover from it all. But and I should say too, we're not claiming we can cure cancer or any of these things. We're not claiming a cure for anything, but we're claiming that there are things you can do to improve your life.
Yes, improve. So this is episode, or the fourth in a series on inflammation and immunity. If you're just catching this one, we had the first one was on nutritional triggers for inflammation and infection, injury. Then we had physical triggers, and then we had emotional triggers. And this last one was environmental triggers.
Yes.
So this kind of wraps up our series on inflammation and immunity, which is a big topic right now with COVID everywhere. People are looking to improve their health. And so I think you've done a great job of helping people to understand what goes on in their body when they're exposed to things and how you can correct those things and clean it up. Did you have anything else to add, guys?
Nope. This next week. What are we doing next week, Nikki?
We're talking COVID next week.
COVID-19.
We are talking COVID.
Everybody talks about COVID-19.
Yes.
And just to give you a preview, we're not the conspiracy theorists, which you might think we are. So we're going to talk about COVID in a way that we discuss the issues, we discuss the vaccines, we discuss ways. We've already discussed one of the reasons we waited to do COVID until after the series of 4 discussions on immunity, because immunity, in my opinion, is the single biggest defense against COVID and anything else out there that might come to kill you in the form of a bacteria, virus, or fungus.
Yeah.
So there we go.
I want to ask Eric because he just got his second COVID shot this week.
Well, we're going to talk about it next week, I think.
Yes.
Right?
But
yes.
I want to know now what you're
You're gonna have to
feeling.
wait.
You
We've got
have
our
to
listeners
wait.
to come back.
How are you feeling? You just had it
I'm still alive.
2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah.
2 days
It's
ago.
been almost
So
48 hours. I'm still alive.
Wednesday you had it?
I had it on
And which one did you have?
The Moderna one.
The Moderna.
Moderna.
Yeah. So if
Okay.
I'm still alive next week, we'll talk about COVID. If not,
And we'll talk about each vaccine and research, deaths that have occurred, injuries that have occurred, which one seems to be the safest, etc. We are not against vaccinations. We are against the substances put in vaccines that may be harmful to you. And so there you go.
Just like anything else that you were talking about in the environment
Yes.
that is harmful. It's just, another thing to be careful.
Yeah, sometimes they create these vaccines and they have to put preservatives in them. They have to do things to them or put chemicals in them to enable them to be used in your body. And sometimes those things are worse for you than
the actual virus.
And the actual vaccine substance itself.
All right, everyone. Well, you know what you're looking forward to next week. So thank you so much for joining us on this 4-part series. We hope you learned something that can help your health. And if you know someone that you'd like to share it with,
While we
please
make every
do.
effort to
We're
broadcast
looking
correct
forward to
information,
talking
we
with
are
you
still
again
learning.
next week.
We will
Thanks,
double
everybody.
check all facts, but realize that medicine
Thanks.
is a constantly changing science and art. One doctor may have a different way of doing things from another. We are simply presenting our views on how to live a healthy lifestyle that will be as evidence-based as possible. We welcome any comments, suggestions, or corrections of errors. We take no money from drug or device companies. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others, including but not limited to patients that you are treating. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to the podcast. Under no circumstances shall Dr. Kell Fullerton or any guests or any contributors to the podcast or any employees, associates, or affiliates of Dr. Kell Fullerton be responsible for damages arising from use of this podcast. This blog should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis of expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. Our website, blog, and podcasts are all HIPAA compliant. While you may give your email address to subscribe to the website posts or to post information on the website blog, we will never share your email address or contact information with any third parties without your explicit permission. The contents of Health Talk with Dr. Kell podcast and the show notes are all copyrighted. All blog posts, podcasts, and show notes that are distributed to the public for free can be redistributed via hard copy or electronic copy for free only if Health Talk with Dr. Kell is included as the acknowledged author within the actual media that is being redistributed. The Health Talk with Dr. Kell podcast is a production of the Orange Stack, with executive producers Dr. Kell Fullerton and Eric Hammond and host Nikki Sterling.